This is common milkweed. In Latin, it is known as Asclepias Syriaca. If you tear one of its leaves, petioles, or break its stalk, you will immediately understand where milkweed derives its name from. As you can see, common milkweed is full of milky sap that readily drips from any injury on the plant. Now, before I go any further, I want to caution you, common milkweed is mildly toxic and therefore cannot be eaten raw. However, the toxin can be neutralized through boiling. This is good news because common milkweed is a tasty and nutritious plant when properly prepared. The United States Department of Agriculture has identified 76 species of milkweed that grow in the US alone. However, common milkweed is the only species that is considered safe to eat, after being properly boiled, of course. Other species are not. Even if the common milkweed is a plant that you only wish to admire rather than eat, it is still a good idea to familiarize yourself with it. You never know when such knowledge might come in handy. The more you know about the wild edibles around you, the better. If you are a butterfly enthusiast, then you're going to love milkweed. That's because milkweed plants are magnets for monarch butterflies. Monarchs lay their eggs on the underside of milkweed leaves, and the caterpillars that hatch from them feast on the plants. Milkweed is the only food a monarch caterpillar will eat. They use the plant's toxin as a defense against predators that might try to make a snack of them. The monarch is immune to the toxin, which is why they can eat the plant. As they eat, the toxin is stored up in their bodies, making them taste bitter to predators. It's a pretty smart defense if you ask me. If you see a milkweed leaf with little bumps on its underside, leave it alone. Those will likely be monarch butterfly eggs. And of course, if you see a butterfly or caterpillar on a milkweed plant, leave them alone as well. Anyway, common milkweed grows over much of North America, and they love to grow in direct sunlight, which means that you will most likely find them growing in open fields. Common milkweed has a single thick stalk that grows straight up and is around 3 to 5 feet tall at maturity. When the stalk is broken, you will see that it is hollow in the center. This is an important feature to remember. The leaves are oval and meaty with smooth margins, and they always grow in pairs opposite each other from the stalk. Each pair is usually rotated 90 degrees from the pair above and below it. From mid to late summer, the common milkweed will flower. The flowers are quite unique in appearance, and they grow in dense, spherical clusters. The seed pods are equally as unique, and they too develop during mid to late summer. The elongated seed pods are covered in soft projections. When the seed pods reach maturity, they will break open during autumn to release their downy seeds into the wind. Several parts of the common milkweed plant are edible when properly cooked. In the spring, the young shoots and leaves can be boiled. Later in the summer, the buds, flowers, and immature seed pods can also be cooked and eaten. For this episode, I will be focusing on the seed pods. When handling milkweed, make sure not to get the sap on or near your eyes. For this reason, it is a good idea to wash your hands immediately after handling milkweed, or you might want to wear gloves while handling the plant. Only the immature seed pods can be eaten. That's because the silk inside a young pod is moist and tender enough to eat. But as the pod matures, the silk dries out and solidifies into fluff, making it too tough to eat. When picking the seed pods, I try not to pick anything that is over 2 inches long, but you can probably get away with anything up to 3 inches at most. When cooked, people will often extract the silk inside the young seed pods and use it to mimic the texture and appearance of melted cheese. You heard me right, the silk inside a seed pod can be used as a melted cheese substitute in different dishes. Before I get to cooking the seed pods, you should be aware that common milkweed can sometimes be mistaken for other species of plants that are not edible in any form. This is why it is always a good idea to thoroughly research each wild edible for yourself before handling it. Better yet, have a knowledgeable expert take you into the field and show you how to properly identify certain plants. My point is, just because you read about it online or see some guy on YouTube eating a certain wild edible, doesn't mean you should take them at their word alone. Anyway, the 2 plants that are most commonly mistaken for common milkweed are Dogbane and butterfly weed. Both plants cannot be eaten under any set of circumstances. But don't let that scare you, because there are a few key features you can look for that will help you easily identify common milkweed apart from dogbane and butterfly weed. Let's start with dogbane. Dogbane and common milkweed are often confused in the spring when the plants are still young. At a quick glance, the shoots and leaves of both plants can look similar, and both drip milky sap when injured. But here are 3 key differences. Number 1, the stalk of a common milkweed plant is hollow, whereas a dogbane stalk, although soft, is solid. Number 2, common milkweed and dogbane stalks and leaves may look similar near their bases, but there is an obvious difference further up the plant as it matures. Dogbane quickly branches out and the leaves often get smaller higher up the bush. However, common milkweed doesn't branch out and the leaves remain relatively the same size all the way up its single stalk. And finally, number 3. Dogbane seed pods are long and slender, similar in shape to string beans. Common milkweed seed pods are much meatier and have a teardrop shape to them. Now on to butterfly weed. Butterfly weed belongs to the milkweed family, but as I stated before, it is not edible under any set of circumstances. Now, I don't have any footage of butterfly weed as I haven't found any in my area yet, but the described differences are easily noticeable anyway. Here are the 2 main ones. Number 1, the flowers of the butterfly weed are red or orange, whereas the flowers of the common milkweed are light purple or sometimes light pink or even white. Number 2, the sap of butterfly weed is clear, whereas common milkweed sap is milky. After confirming these plants as common milkweed, I harvested some of the younger seed pods. As I picked, I made sure to leave at least a couple pods on each milkweed plant. All the pods that you see here are between 1 and 2 inches long, a perfect size for cooking and eating. After taking the seed pods home, I started by rinsing them with water. Then I dumped them into a large pot of boiling water. The more water, the better. Remember, it is very important to boil the seed pods first in order to make them edible. I always boil common milkweed seed pods for 8 to 10 minutes with a pinch of salt thrown in. If you boil the pods for any longer than 10 minutes, they will start to fall apart. After the boiling is finished, dump the water out. The pods are ready to eat. Their texture is unlike anything I've had before, which is why they are one of my favorite wild edibles, and they taste similar to asparagus or broccoli. Sometimes I eat the boiled pods as is, but this time I'm going to show you my favorite way of preparing them. I mixed some butter and soy sauce together in a wok, and I threw the pods in to cook for a few minutes longer. The flavor is absorbed into the seed pod's silky center, which is why they are excellent in stir fries. There you have it, from seed pods to flavor pods in 15 minutes flat.